Hello everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a great day. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. So we are back on the roundabout, as it were. A lot of the popular news that became slightly unpopular has resurfaced once again. You're going to notice a pattern. You're going to notice a very, very clear pattern in this video. It has to do with one thing over and over and over. However, a lot of the news today is quite conflicting. You'll see what I'm talking about. The arrival of United States spot Ethereum exchange traded funds could enhance Ethereum's market valuation. However, if these ETFs are rejected, it may merely be a bump in the road rather than a roadblock. This was said by Jupiter Zheng, head of research at Hashkey Capital. If you haven't been here, bless your hearts. What's basically been going on since the 12th of January, literally January, is people have been discussing the idea of other coins getting their own exchange traded funds. Bitcoin went from blah, 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 blah to 73,000 something or other $1 million per coin, and everyone loved it. So why not give it to every other coin? A lot of companies have been trying to get Bitcoin ETFs for such a long time. It took over a decade to get the ones that they currently have within the United States. The idea is that as Ethereum back in 2018, along with Bitcoin, were declared commodities by the US SEC, therefore it should be easy peasy. No one even has to kind of worry about it. The issue is that apparently we heard that allegedly Gary Gensler has political aspirations, allegedly, and is trying to do whatever he can to appease the other demons who are around him. So what we heard in the crypto news is that, and we saw, a day or two after the SEC allowed the Bitcoin ETFs, Gary Gensler went onto the news, I forgot which station, and he was like, this isn't an endorsement of Bitcoin. Bitcoin's still awful and terrible and horrible and criminals and blah, 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 blah. All the stuff that he's been saying for a very long time. And then people were like, well, you know, as we know that Ethereum's not a security, it's probably going to be completely fine. And then like 4 weeks later, Gary Gensler and the SEC group announced that they were investigating the Ethereum Foundation for violating securities laws and that Ether itself might be a security. You get the point. So the issue is, and the major issue, is that the companies who have applied for ETFs, and one at the top of the mountain pyramid is BlackRock. And BlackRock has only been rejected once in the entire history of BlackRock for an ETF. And I assume whoever rejected that ETF is probably no longer working anywhere at this point. So the assumption has constantly been there's going to be an Ethereum ETF. About a week ago, from like right now, the air became very negative. Everyone was like, I don't know if we're going to get it, but blah, 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 blah. There was even, and I mean like what? Someone even interviewed Justin Sun, the guy who made Tron. I don't know why people keep trying to make him famous. It is boggling my mind. He was in the news talking about, oh, he also doesn't think. And I'm like, one, your coin is Tron. You're not part of the Ethereum Foundation. I'm sure you've been in no conversation with Ethereum Foundation and or the SEC. So how did you even get? Anyway, so everyone assumes that now there's not going to be Ethereum ETFs after all the hype that we had over the course of a 2-month or so period. You might remember, if you don't, here's a refresher, where I said, well, if we get them, cool, fantabulous. If we don't, it'll be A-okay. because the market does not need these things to succeed. When we do get these things or derivatives or it does, of course, help the price, but we were already on that course. So now it feels like, what's the thing? Like almost acceptance by the community. And once again, this discussion is not over, just as a gigantic FYI. Everyone's kind of walking around with their heads low and they're like, well, I mean, if we can't have it, then I guess it's fine. And it's like, one, we're probably never going to get it in the first place. You assume that corrupt Gary Gensler doing one thing, and we heard apparently there was a struggle behind closed doors. If it was a struggle to get it for the number one coin, buddy boy, we were probably going to have an even stronger struggle for the number two coin. Regardless of what happens, Ether will be just fine. It is the most used blockchain on the planet. Stop getting wrapped up in this idea that we need these people to help us in some sort of way for us to be able to survive. That is a constant theme and rhetoric by wealthy people, that you can't do it on your own. I have to help you. There's no way you can survive. Take my hand. I know the answers. It's, excuse my French, it's the letters B and the letter S. He said, if the ETF is denied, it will not be that bearish, as the market is not pricing it in yet. And we still have Bitcoin ETFs as the entrance for traditional funds. This was told by Tseng to Coinbase earlier this month. There was never, and I'm so glad, like you can't imagine. If Ethereum was around $6,000 right now from anticipation from the ETFs, we would have a very, very difficult summer ahead of us. The fact that they're not priced in is one of the greatest things in the entire world, because we can kind of like, I'm anticipating a drop from a rejection the same exact way. If you weren't here in the last decade or so, not some, every time there was a Bitcoin ETF rejection, Bitcoin's price went down for about a day or two until people looked up. There were still clouds and the sun in the sky, and they were like, oh, maybe thing isn't going to be as terrible as I previously thought it was. Tseng also expressed optimism about the potential bullish effect of an approved ETF, especially one that includes staking, which could trigger a wave of short liquidations and further drive up Ethereum's price. Oh my gosh, there were two applications for ETFs within the United States for Ethereum, Ethereum spot ETFs, as Hong Kong already, has them, that included the term staking inside of them. So they would essentially not only be buying up Ether, but also staking it. So by holding portions of that ETF, you would essentially be making passive income, which, I mean, the word bullish doesn't even begin to describe how many people would be buying this for the sake of Ethereum passive income. The Securities and Exchange Commission is expected to make a decision on spot Ethereum ETFs within, it's supposed to be like the next 2 or 3 weeks. I believe it's supposed to be the 18th of May. I believe that's the time frame. So, do you guys remember, like, oh gosh, when was it? Like the end of December. Let's say middle December. Remember something very weird kept on happening. So, all the other Bitcoin ETF applications over the previous decade kind of went like this. Hey, can I have paper? No paper for you. Okay, sorry. And then the door closed. But then remember, we started hearing whispers online that things were being listed in places and conversations were being had behind closed doors. And this was, like 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks before we actually got the Bitcoin ETFs. One of the main things that kind of stuck out very strongly was the listing of the actual Bitcoin ETFs on that website. I think it was called DTCC, ABC123. I forgot exactly what it's called, but that was one of the things. And then we started getting news on Twitter from a lot of the ETF analysts who were like, so you don't list an ETF on that website unless it is going to be approved or has been pre-approved. You just don't list that you're going to have something for sale if you don't know that you're not getting the shipment in. That's kind of one of the easiest ways of saying that. So, yeah. Also in the news, asset management firm Franklin Templeton, has listed their Ethereum exchange traded fund that they've been, yes, you paying attention now? Yeah. Franklin Templeton has listed their exchange traded fund for Ethereum under the ticker symbol EZET on the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation website. Getting some deja vu? Yeah, me too. So this is literally how it went for the Bitcoin ETF. A lot of people got very disappointed. We had discussions about like Bitcoin will be just fine. There's no real, issue here. And then days later, we started hearing, because I believe there were originally 11 companies who applied for Bitcoin ETFs. And then I believe one of them, the ETF name, appeared on the DTCC's website. And then I believe there were two more after that. And that's when everyone was like, okay, this is clearly a go. So once this is, I'm giving you the largest grain of salt. I guess it's not really a grain at that point. It's more like the salt come in buckets. You understand what I'm trying to say. We're kind of mimicking where we were a couple of months ago. The Franklin Templeton Ethereum Ethereum ETF is listed in the create or redeem column of the DTCC's website. The product has yet to be approved by the US SEC. The issue is, and it's the one that's bolded right here. The issue is that we've heard before. Now, once again, I am not an ETF expert. I'm simply going off of the news that we had before. We were told that you don't put it on this, like it doesn't make any sense. You wouldn't put your Ethereum ETF onto a website, your Bitcoin ETF, unless you were going to get it. It just logically doesn't make any sense. Like you have to be approved to literally be able to do this. On the 12th of February, Franklin Templeton was the latest asset manager to file a spot Ethereum ETF application with the SEC. Joining a long list of 95, no, it's not 95, it's like 7 different companies, all of which submitted applications for a spot Ethereum ETF. Last week, the SEC announced a delay in their decision regarding Franklin Templeton's proposed spot ETFs, extending the deadline to the 11th of June. One of the theory has been is that everyone's basically once again waiting for BlackRock. I wish that we did not have to or simply wouldn't care. But as BlackRock is BlackRock, if they get rejected, everyone else gets rejected. If we get news of even one or two more times of Ethereum ETFs being listed on the DTCC's website, we're probably going to get them. That's what I was saying about this video. There's a lot of really intense news floating around, but it's also like, don't hold your breath simply because, as far as we know, the only nice person or logical person in the SEC's office is Hester Pierce. If any of you work there, I'm truly sorry because I don't know you. But I'm going off of like 10 years of news of there just being nonsense from that office. So, yeah, as of right now, that's the news. We will see as the future progresses exactly if more of these will pop up or if it gets accepted. Because, either way, the market will be fine. And yeah, that's the apparently Uh-huh. Yeah, on the screen news. Okie dokie. Let's move on. Also in very popular news, the largest stock exchange in the world is reportedly gauging interest to become an around-the-clock operation. Let me give you some backdrop on this. Back in the year 1922, when I was 5 years old, I remember there also being conversations of people talking about should stock exchanges be 24 hours. The idea being, for those of you who don't know how the planet works, people live in different places. So if you see huge amount of interest in the stock market, or especially in futures, the point of futures is, the future movements of the market. So when the market's air quote closed, people trade futures based off of what they think the future price is going to be on stock exchanges. The idea is if it was open 24 hours a day while the US sleeps and Europe is awake and India is awake, they would still be able to trade the markets consistently, basically allowing more revenue to constantly pour into the markets. But as things are very centralized, it becomes quite difficult because you would essentially, in essence, need someone to constantly man these machines or monitor these things, even as people are asleep. So you would have to hire basically other people around the world to run the markets for you, the New York Stock Exchange, etc., while people in the US slept. It's not a new idea. It's literally just been something that's been touted for a while. However, the majority of the news right now is not only talking about the fact that the NYSE might become a 24-hour trading platform, but also that they're doing it because of crypto. Now, stop it and take one gigantic leap back, because while our market is incredible and there's a lot of money to be made, the New York Stock Exchange is not thinking of doing this because 24/7 is crypto. You get the generalized idea. However, you can't stop the people in crypto from talking about it, so of course it made popular news. According to the Financial Times, the New York Stock Exchange's analytics team is surveying interest in after-hours trading. The Financial Times says that interest is largely driven by the 24/7 world of crypto trading, which saw huge increases in retail investors during the 2020 pandemonium. The NYSE evolving into an overnight trading option would represent a huge change for the world's leading exchange, according to Georgetown University finance professor James Angel. It's a long title. The viability of the change should be decided by the free market and not the US SEC. Oh boy, are they back again. He said, I have no idea how much volume they're going to do in the middle of the night, but it's not really up to the SEC to decide whether it's commercially viable or not. I'm in favor of letting the market decide. Yeah, how else were people trying to think of it? What in what world what did this ever have to do with the SEC? Does anyone know? Why am I screaming into this microphone? If anyone can tell me explicitly why the SEC would even come into question for any of this, is it because of people in other countries would be dealing in US securities? They get to say whether the light is on or not? I just don't understand this world. If it succeeds, we're all better off. And if it doesn't, well, the exchange's investors lost. And I mean, cool it, buddy, as well. That's very, very dramatic. The market will be just fine. We do not need, it's okay to rest. I don't know who needs to hear that. Go take a nap. Go lay down, close your eyes, and wake up a couple hours later. It's okay to rest. We don't need a 24-hour market. This is probably being proposed because the world's economy is poo-poo caca right now. And they're probably looking literally for an extra 8 hours. No, it's more than that. It's way more than that. Of money making. To be completely realistic. Someone in the last 15 years hasn't just gone, oh my gosh, why aren't we 24/7 like Bitcoin? No, did you watch the other video? The world economically is not doing too hot right now. And they're probably trying to figure out a way to literally bring in tons of extra money. If you can have your market open at all hours, have you ever, for those of you who don't live in the States, you probably have never heard of, or I don't know where you live, so put your hand down. You probably have never heard of or seen a 24-hour supermarket, a 24-hour Starbucks, a 24-hour McDonald's. They are constantly in business. When I tell you the amount of times when I was younger, 2 o'clock in the morning, going to get an Entenmann's cake, and that supermarket had at least like another 45 people inside there as well. It's a clever way to make money. I mean, people got to man the stations, but it's still, you understand. So, it doesn't, we're not going to all be better off because money's constantly flowing 24 hours a day. It's okay to sleep. It's just that if this was a thing, of course, people would be able to bring in the extra bucks. And I assume there'd also be like a little bit of a jump in revenue as well if people are trading at all times, especially for the stock exchange. So very popular news. Once again, people keep trying to, and I mean, everyone lives differently. People keep trying to frame it as if it's like a because of crypto thing. And it's like, no, dude, like, have you not seen these people are trying to make as much money because the world is. That's the New York Stock Exchange is talking about a 24-hour trading platform. If they do it, other exchanges will do the same. And then, I mean, it'll only accelerate the stock market crash because, adding in those extra hours, of course, has to be great for the machine that's already, held together by rubber bands. That's the Financial Times news. Yeah. Let's move on. So here's the other. I mean, it's impossible. It's impossible to get away from these 3 letters. So as long as I've been in crypto, one organization has constantly been at the forefront of madness. Part of the problem that many people in the space has to do, and I mean, it's actually 30,000 problems, but one of them is lack of clarity and also honesty. Have you ever seen, what's that movie from like 95 years ago? I think it's called The Watchmen, where it's like, who watches the Watchmen, or the Watchmen are watching people. I forgot what the exact phrase was, but it was something along the lines of like, who regulates the regulator? That kind of thing. I once lived foolishly, and I believed that people in positions of power use their power for good. I just heard someone chuckle. Thank you for the laugh. The problem is that it doesn't work that way. And if the world did, we'd probably not be having this conversation. Something recently popped up in the news, and I found it interesting as to why no one else was also discussing it, because it's a gigantimous part of even our market, and I think it needs to be discussed. So the SEC, there are those letters again. See, you can't get away from them. The SEC in the last like 6 or so years has become kind of feral. The point of the SEC is to regulate securities. And seeing as the cryptocurrency market continues to grow in popularity, the SEC also believes, this is not reality, but they believe that they should have control over the entirety of the cryptocurrency market and its completion from beginning to end. And we've seen an enormous amount of lawsuits popping up more often than not from the SEC. So when this news popped up, it made me scratch my beard and I went, I wonder what else has been going on. Michael Welsh and Joseph Watkins, 2 lawyers from the Securities and Exchange Commission, have resigned. What? Why would they do such a thing? Have resigned following a federal judge's sanctions against the agency for committing a gross abuse of power. Yeah. In its case against a Utah-based crypto company called Debtbox, according to a report from Bloomberg. Imagine my surprise. What? The SEC did something wrong? That's crazy. The attorneys were reportedly forced to step down or face termination because they wouldn't have done so on their own for the sake of being good. In July 2023, the SEC accused Debtbox and its executives of defrauding investors of at least $49 million US. The agency sought and obtained a temporary restraining order, freezing the company's assets and placing it into receivership. However, U.S. Chief District Judge Robert Shelby in the District of Utah later reversed the asset freeze after finding that the SEC may have made, and I quote, materially false and misleading representations in their pursuit of restraining order. Why would the SEC lie? I don't understand. They've never done anything like that before. That's so weird. Judge Shelby's December 2023 order expressed concerns that the SEC, and I quote, SEC's conduct had undermined the integrity of the proceedings. What? The judge sanctioned the agency in March 2024 for its gross abuse of the power entrusted to it by Congress. The SEC was then ordered to pay Debtbox's attorney's fees. What? Isn't that a little weird? Why would Gary know? Why would Gary do this? Oh, right. The problem here is, if you've been listening to any of the other news stories in the last 3 years, the SEC once again has gone feral. And part of their ferality, is that a word? Is that they've been, the lawsuits they've been launching, okay, I'm not a part of the SEC. I don't know what they're looking at. The issue, my friend, is that the fines that they're trying to fine these companies have been like $1.3 billion, $3.3 billion. And it's like, where exactly are you getting those numbers from? Even worser is finding out and having heard multiple times from many people within the cryptocurrency space that something's wrong with the SEC. Now, hear me out here. If allegedly, according to Chief District Judge Robert Shelby, the lawyers of the SEC allegedly lied in this case, how many other cases might they have also allegedly misrepresented or been misleading about or have provided false information about? You notice how a lot of times, and I said this before, and I say this for all regulation around the world. While I myself am not a billionaire, I find it hard to believe that with billionaire status, I would do anything to mess that up purposefully. Can we all agree? Now, hear me out here. As a cryptocurrency company working in one of the worst jurisdictions on the planet, the U.S., to do business in because the SEC just won't get it together, I find it hard to believe that any of these companies would have purposefully, willingly, or even otherwisely have chosen to ever actually violate any kind of securities laws. For those of you who don't know, all of these crypto exchanges have a lot of lawyers. And I don't mean like 3, I mean they have like a lot of lawyers around the world. Because when they launch in these countries, they have legal counsel that says you do A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Do not touch 4, 5, and 6. Do not touch the other letters. And they go, cool. And, you know, often when you are a multi-billion-dollar company, you have your lawyers always present who are always looking into this information and this stuff as well. It's not like you talk to your lawyer once a month like, hey, good. Hey, we good? All right, cool, awesome. TTYL. No, you keep like they're there in the building to keep track of everything that's going on. That's why I found it a little weird when Kraken, Coinbase, and even Gemini and Binance all got into trouble around the exact same time. I said, oh, something fraudulent's going on. Because can you imagine? You know the stakes. Your crypto exchange is bringing in, you are raking in the dough. If Tether every 3 months from Tether fees alone is bringing in billions of dollars, billions worth of revenue, why would you do something on purpose to mess that up? Now imagine a cryptocurrency exchange who has more than just Tether. Thousands of coins listed. Wow, thousands. Do you honestly believe at any point these people from these crypto exchanges made sure to not have their 15 lawyers constantly combing through the laws? We've even heard before, we've heard multiple times, this is also from Coinbase last year, they said they were in constant discussions with the SEC. Constant. That's why when the lawsuit happened against Coinbase, they were like, what the fudge are you talking about? Where did this come from? We've complied with everything. So now hearing, even just in this one case about the SEC, I only have gigantic question marks, gigantimous question marks everywhere about everything that they've done. Also, this was not popular news. Isn't that weird? It's popular with me because this lets me know that something's not right within that building. We heard that. So the last point, we heard this years ago from apparently multiple workers within the SEC and also people who worked for the SEC and people who like commercially work with them, like a business who has to, converse with the SEC. Apparently they're garbage, like just absolutely gutter butt terrible, and no one likes them. So yeah, it's absolutely terrible because once again, who regulates the regulators? It doesn't make any sense that it took 10 years to get Bitcoin ETFs. And there's the fact that Hong Kong got spot Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs in 12 weeks, 3 months is nonsensical. There should be no fight within the US over all these things, except for the fact that the SEC is losing control. They have run out of space to grow, so they're looking for a brand new market to try and dominate and take over. So, yeah, I wish there was a way to fight corruption, but maybe that's why it's called corruption. I think that's going to do it for this video. I do hope that you have all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Let's see in the next couple of weeks if we get this Ethereum ETF, and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See